Make sure I didn't sit in someone's assigned seat, and no one ever sits in the front, so everybody's a back row Baptist, so might as well sit on the front row.
It's all over YouTube. Oh, yeah, just 10 of them. Oh, yeah.
Time to get things going, let's all rise and say something. Interesting. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Welcome everyone here to the board meeting tonight. We appreciate our visitors and guests being here, as well as our administrators and board members. What we need to do is to approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion. I'll go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second it.
Chantel and Brian on the motion and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the consent agenda tonight contains the minutes from the previous meeting, the Health Services Program Review, the CSIP, Continuous School Improvement Plan, along with second quarter attendance and financial review. Does anybody have any of those that you'd like to pull out before we approve that?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Jeremy, second by Steve to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Monthly expenditures, we have a list of those in the board packet every month. If anybody has any questions concerning the expenditures, now would be a good time to bring those up. If not, a motion to approve the expenditures.
Motion to approve the expenditure.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business, academic calendar.
Okay, last month, or the January 18th meeting, presented 3 options to you all. Since that time, I've submitted those options to the faculty. Option 1 is basically a mirrored calendar from this year. Option 2 is a calendar with a lengthy spring break. And then option 3 is a calendar with 2 small breaks, one in the fall and one in the spring. As I received feedback, I received a total of 133 votes, and 76 votes from the staff supported option 1, 26 supported option 2, and 31 supported option 3. Based off of the feedback of the staff and review myself, I would recommend that the board adopt option 1, which is the mirrored calendar from the this year for the 24-25 academic calendar.
Much the same calendar we've used for several years. Anyone have any opinions on that? I believe the staff has spoken.
I'll make a motion we approve calendar option number 1.
I'll second that. Motion by Brian, second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I would, the 2023 B MSBA revision was submitted in January. I went through it a couple different times, talked with the administrative team today. I would ask the board to table this for a 3rd reading, so I can review it a little bit more, just to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, primarily under the auspice that there are 2 versions, one for there's two versions of the personnel element, and then there's two versions under the students element. And before I make a recommendation to you guys, I just wanna make sure that I review all of the circumstances that are around it. There is no time, requirement for this to be adopted in a certain amount of time. But I would ask the board to table it until, for a third reading until March.
Move we table this MSBA policy, 2023D, until the next meeting. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Steve, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next option, old business, the easement request for the walking trail from the city of Aurora. I know this had quite a bit of debate in the January 18th meeting. Per the Roberts rules, the next meeting incumbent to list it on the old business. So it's listed on the old business item, or on the old business record, if you will, or agenda. The request hasn't changed. As you can tell in the packets, the city of Aurora provided us with a fairly lengthy explanation of things, which I sincerely appreciate. I don't believe the mayor's here this evening. I think at this time, it would be, my recommendation is that the board considers resolving it sooner rather than later. If it is not resolved this evening, I would request the board consider, come back perhaps on Friday morning and hold a special meeting to further discuss it. But I would ask the board to resolve it in some way, shape, or form. It is a unique situation, but I do think it needs to be resolved sooner rather than later. So, Mr. McCauley, I didn't know if you wanted to add any more to that situation?
Well, I apologize for not being here at the last meeting to be able to share in the debate, history going back prior to probably most people that are sitting at the table when the initial grant for the walking trails that began over in the White Park area began. We were one of the entities, which we weren't the only one. About everybody in town wrote a support letter to get the grant initially. I certainly appreciate the letter, which answered a lot of questions. Mayor Lewis, thank you very much for providing that for us. A lot of these things have been handy last time, but it's great to have them right now. I agree, the partnership between the city and the school district is an important one in any community. They need to be able to work together. We have a shared responsibility to our children to do the right things for them and for our community as well. The walking trail, when we first looked at the walking trail as a board, one of the main appeals to it was the fact that it connects all our buildings, connects all our campuses together. We currently have the trailhead at Pate, that ends at the Pate parking lot. And we've had the opportunity to take advantage of that with students. I'm assuming we walk them down the walking trail when we go to White Park, and we walk them down the walking trail when they go to the swimming pool for summer school and things like that. So it's been definitely a benefit to us. The area right around Robinson has no sidewalks. Well, Hadley does, but the sidewalks to the north end, 2 or 3 blocks north of the school building. So we have at times when we were taking kids walking towards the pool or different things on the streets. And so for safety circumstances, I think it's a really good opportunity to use that. I do agree with the 3rd paragraph that this is a shared goal that the city and the school have for the safety of our children. And we want to make sure that we can keep them off the roads as much as possible. I would venture to say that it would be nice to go ahead and see that trailhead extend from Crosby Park onto the high school. At some point in time, we purchased land to make that possibility happen. And that is one of my big concerns is over at the high school prospect, no sidewalks. I'd really like to find a way for kids who walk to school from the high school to have a better way to get there. The safety aspect, I did ask our chief of police, Wes, to be here this evening to answer any questions, because I think probably the biggest concern is the board that we have. Some of the questions, I think, last time are answered in this, the letter that we have here. It's some fencing options that we were looking at. I've been actually doing a lot of fencing research since that last meeting, and I found the discussions that was the main part of the discussion, is how to be safe and also provide the walking trail. We want our kids in the playground back there to have a safe environment. I looked at fencing that was over at Liberty, around the Liberty compound over there, which basically is the fence that's at the bottom on page 4, probably, yeah. 7.5 foot with the rigid staves, vertical staves in there. Manufacturer says those are designed to be 85%, with visibility, because we do have issues, have thoughts that we would like to have our playground to have a barrier so that it would be safe for them in case that there's any unsavory activities that occur on the other side. I'm not saying that would happen. And the fencing proposals that you have here, 6 to 8 foot in height, is perfect. I'm not a huge fan of the wood, and I'll just speak for myself as an insurance agent. I replace a lot of stationary fences behind people's houses made out of vinyl or wood from the west wind that we have that come through here. So, and wood requires maintenance. Anything that's fixed is going to require maintenance, and it's going to have some perils for those who might have a spray can and want to use the fence for a canvas. Possibly could cause some issues there. But the main thing is to keep the fence as a barrier, a deterrent for anyone who might want to enter the playground that we don't desire. We don't want people visiting with our students through the fence, which is where really the visual part comes. We don't want parents walking by on the trails saying hi to their kids or whatever to distract them during the school day. There are a lot of options as far as the safety parts. We can look at cameras down the road if we wanted to do that, but I think the fence is the first thing to look at. Many of the board members have raised concerns about it to try to be as much of a barrier as possible where you can't see through it. I personally like the chain link fence with the staves in there. Pardon me?
I don't like the fact that you can't see back there.
Well, you can see, it's just, you're talking about the teachers can't see back there, or?
They should be able to see the trail.
Okay.
If something going on back there, you're not gonna know it.
The good thing about the fence with the staves is you can see through it. You can see what's going on. You're not gonna be, it's limited visibility, which means if someone's on the path, they're not gonna be able to really pick out kids, or if somebody back there does something that,
Yeah.
then the kids aren't gonna be able to see them, but you will be able to see people walking back through there. You'll be able to see, where you wouldn't with a fixed panel fence.
Yeah, it's like the one at Liberty, you can see through it.
Yes, you can see through it, but it's gonna basically kind of blur. Now, if you're on an angle, if you're walking, you can't see diagonally through that fence. You have to be looking straight on
Yeah.
to see through that fence. I did have a nice conversation with our chief of police, visited with him about that type of a fence, and even going ahead and using the angle with the barbed wire on the top. As far as a safety issue, and from our conversation, and I'll ask Wes to verify that, from our conversation with him, with the walking trail installed, with the adequate fence around it, he believes that we will have improved safety over what we have today, that our safety for that school is going to improve. I have had some people talk about possibly making it not visible on the north wall, north section, because that's the section that runs closest to the equipment, to the playground equipment. And there's some, there are some issues, potential issues you might have with a non-custodial parent or something like that, that I would rather that part that's right next to the school building, if we're gonna have a part that has no visibility, I'd rather it be right there. But on the east, that would be the north side. But on the east fence, I think that the limited visibility, where they can still see the walking trail. Some of the research I've been doing, I mean, you can put staves on there that look like a brick wall. You can put staves on there that look like a ivy fence, you know, where it looks like a hedge, basically. I don't think that's necessarily appropriately what we wanna do, but
So you're talking, Mark, just to clarify with the board, you're talking on the north side, from the parking lot area, or on that north side to request, one of the options to be a non-see-through or a, barrier, full barrier, like one of those options that Mr. Simmons, that's in the packet, that would connect, that would run all the way down to about the 45-degree angle of the trail, and then at that point, it would potentially, then transition into the, for lack of a better way to put it, the limited visibility, like the Liberty Bank, fence. That's what you're referring to?
yes, I did a little research today. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the fencing that I generally see at tennis courts or swimming pools around golf course, country club things, where you can't see. And it's actually a 30 by 60 foot fabric that we as a school, if we wanted to install that on the interior, on that portion of it, would block. It's not only blocking the view, but it's also an acoustic barrier
On the portion of the north side?
on that portion of the north side that we wanted to be less visible into the facility. But I believe that fencing, and I'm gonna let Wes, we had a conversation, you had several good points to bring up about usage of our school resource officers, potentially stepped up with some patrol in the area to monitor that area as well. You are a public safety officer. When this trail is completed, it's gonna be tasked to the police, because that's gonna be on your section of the property line, to make sure that that's safe. So what are your thoughts on that?
The police department views both sides our responsibility, the school and the walking trail. The school is probably the school system in both Aurora and Marinville, probably one of our top law enforcement thoughts on our brains every single day. All of our officers, not just the school resource officers, check the schools. They drive around them at night. All the schools are on special watches. All of the kids, especially when they're in session, are at the forefront of all of our minds, because it's not gonna be just the school resource officer response to something. It's gonna be all of us. The current setup over there, I went over there last Friday, I think it was, and went out there. The current setup is I can park my patrol car on Washington Street and have access to that playground in just no time at all. So if you had somebody with those intentions, access to the playground is not really is not a problem. I could park on Washington Street if I was an estranged parent that I knew when my kid was having playground time, I could go right over that drainage ditch and have my kid and back out to my car in no time. So what we're all talking about here on the big picture, like I told Mark on the phone the other day, is risk mitigation. That's really what it is. And so that's my business, is risk mitigation. You mentioned that you were in the Department of Corrections somewhere. I don't know if it was Missouri or wherever. And that's the world that I was kind of involved in my previous career, was doing investigations and criminal investigations inside the Department of Corrections in Missouri. And so there's a lot of risk mitigation that goes on. Fences are one of those things. Visual barriers are another one of those things. Cameras, you mentioned, and safety of the staff. But I would offer to you that I heard somebody mention complacency, which is 100% correct. That was the last meeting, 100% correct, complacency. And I believe that that's one of my jobs with our school resource officers, is to avoid that complacency with the staff. I would want my school resource staff to stay in contact with the teachers about anything that might be a risk. If we think that walking trail is an elevated risk for something nefarious, then we would want the school teachers to be our eyeballs and to call us even if something might seem a little bit strange. I don't care if they're wrong 150,000 times. We're 100% available to get there and check these people out and check somebody out anytime anything is noticed that might be a little bit out of place. It might be an SRO, but more likely it's just going to be some of our patrolmen that are out, because it might be that my patrolman can get there quicker. But the fence, as you mentioned, the fence going through there creates a barrier to the playground that isn't already there. And so if you look at it from that angle, then yes, it creates not only a barrier that they can't get through or over, they would have to go around and get on the school property somehow, but not a straight shot, not an A to B type access. But again, this decision doesn't really affect me. I'm here for you 100%, whether you do it or don't do it. But as a safety thing, I don't have any evidence that I can give you that would suggest that there is an elevated safety risk by having this thing through there with a fence and whatever. Because I've looked back into the dawn of our walking trail system. There just hasn't been any sexual assaults or any access to kids or anything at any of those walking trails. The closest issues that we have to the walking trails are things at like the skate park, and things that are close to the skate park or whatever. But actually, somebody being attacked or somebody being assaulted or things like that on the walking trail just by somebody jumping out and grabbing, it's not happened in Aurora at all since the walking trails have been built. But again, your job is risk mitigation for the kids, and so assuming that those things can happen is correct. Yes, those things can happen, and I think that the fence, along with our school resource officers, making sure that part of the fence. I mean, the school resource officers are boots on the ground in Robinson every day, as it is. I've got all 4 schools covered with the 2 officers. They're putting boots on Sergeant Swadley's putting his boots on the ground in Robinson and the high school, and Officer Rundle is putting her boots on the ground in the junior high and Pate every day. And so if making that walking trail part of their rounds, to check it, to look at it, and vary the times that he goes over there and all of that, that probably would just be a natural thing that we would do anyway. Because it exists, because it's there, and because it's part of the property at that point. So his responsibility and their responsibility is going to be there anyway. But I'm a service provider, so if the school has something that they want me to do more or differently, then that's my job, is to provide a service to the city and to the school. And so if there's something, like I say, if there's, okay, we're afraid of this, that, and the other, and if it's reasonable and something that I can send an officer out to do or to secure or to whatever, then that's why we're here, is to try to mitigate the risk that is concerning to you. And I will say, and I don't need to be overly dramatic about it, if someone was on that walking trail and had some kind of nefarious intent, so help me God, no police officer on my force is gonna be stopped getting there to end that problem extremely quickly.
What did you say your response time to our buildings is?
I regularly test our response time to the buildings. I will just call and say, emergency at Pape, respond. And the longest period of time it's taken us to get to a school is about 90 seconds. But usually we're there quicker than that. But 90 seconds is on the long end. So, you know, there's those weird situations where we might be in Maryville on a car accident or something, where it might take a little bit longer, but 90 seconds has been the longest that it's taken for me to get an entire team of police officers there. And during the day, while you guys are in session, you gotta keep in mind, I've got my patrolman on, but I've also got a chief of police on, I've got a lieutenant on, I've got 3 detectives on, I've got usually some kind of police services on. And so really you have sometimes 7, 8, 9 police officers available for response. And so during the day, when you guys are in session, we can get there a whole lot quicker than if, you know, it was in session at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, we might only have 3 staff on. During the day, we're 8 or 9 deep. And so we've got a team, we formulate a plan, we go to all angles, we'll secure it, nobody's going in and nobody's going out. Anything crazy happens, we're there quickly and with overwhelming force during the day.
What would you say that, just in your opinion, that it would take someone to be behind the current fence and scale that fence and be in our yard? How long?
From Washington Street? Oh, 30 seconds.
With the fence that we're proposing, would that improve that situation?
It would end that situation because they wouldn't choose to do it off of Washington Street. They would have to choose to do it from maybe your parking lot or from somewhere off of Hadley Street or something to bypass that fence altogether. If speed and accuracy is what they're needing, then they would just not mess with that, because it would be, you know, it's same as, so I'm looking at this from the view of an active shooter. So let's say an active shooter sees that Washington Street and they decide to park on Washington Street. That's my exit strategy. I'm gonna go in from the back. I'm gonna make access through the playground. I'm gonna make access through the back door or whatever. Robinson has a couple of entry points from the back side. And so parking on Washington Street offers them some cover and concealment, allows them to get over to the school in about 30, 45 seconds, shoot their way in, which thankfully we have 3M on those back doors, so they'd run into a barrier there anyway. But they would try to get in and then they would try to get out. Robinson's not set up for an entry attack by somebody that means harm, because they're gonna run into a lot of more resistance at that front door than they would the back. So a lot of our school shooters right now are going in from side doors and back doors. That fence and that thing back there adds too many eyeballs and adds too much of a barrier and too much of a potential problem of getting out if they wanted to do something as violent as a shooting. I know that's not the direction you guys are thinking of, but it's what we think of over at the police department. If somebody wanted access to the kids, what would they do? How would they do it? And that fence with the barbed wire and all of that, they just simply wouldn't go that way. They would just have to find another way or find someplace else to do it.
Any board
I do have-
questions for?
I do, I really appreciate your time
Yeah.
and effort and explanations and all those things, so. I just have a few questions personally, because I know that I've called around different places and also know a few things about, different schools that have trails and such through their playgrounds and through their, you know, and such, even up to Springfield, and they have them, where you can't utilize that section just during the school day. And my understanding is we proposed that, and we wanted it shut off during just after school started, so the kids can use it in the beginning of the day, and they can use it after school's out, and then everybody can use it when we're not in school. I'm not opposed, I'm not opposed to a trail there. Do I think we still need a fence? Yes, because we don't want people in there, on our property, and our kids, but I don't understand when we're proposed to shut that section off just for moments of time, and given an alternative trail that we're willing to pay for,
to go around the front of our building, which is what we would rather happen during the school day, because we don't have kids
You need,
up
you
there.
need to, it's what you would.
Yeah, I'm just saying, this is what I was asking about, because that's what I can't approve anything by myself, obviously, I'm just saying, this is me talking, we're looking at that, and we're looking at offering that if the board would like that, and we could afford it, but in other schools, like, for instance, Nixa doesn't allow their kids, anybody to use that trail during school time. So why wouldn't, I don't understand, I guess my question is, why, I don't understand, if we're allowing the trail to be built, it can be used, we're only in session 4 days a week, and it's only from X time to X time, we're allowing them to use it in the morning, we're allowing them to use it in the afternoon, and all evening they want. And we're gonna potentially give an alternative route, why wouldn't that be the best case scenario for everyone?
Can I address that, Chantel? I don't think Wes probably has the answers to those questions.
I'm just saying, like, I
From-
don't
from a
have the
safety-
answers to
from
that,
a
we got
safety
this packet as we
perspective,
walked in the door,
Sure, from
which
a,
isn't okay.
just
I
from a
mean,
safety perspective, I guess my question would be how you plan to barricade each end off, you know, and I don't know what Nixa does and all of that, I don't know if it's just a sign that says, hey, this is
Trails,
closed or what,
markers,
but,
I think.
but that might be better
Gates.
for the city, that might be a better question for,
Let me, first of all, let me address that. First of all, I think the difference here is the location of the trail. Are they, do they have a trail that's been proposed for a floodplain?
It doesn't have anything to do with that, it goes behind our
does.
school, and the choice is, no, it does, cause Nixa,
Michael, call.
no, you're the one arguing it. Nixa says, I mean, to me, that's a red flag. I don't know why Nixa has it, but they do. So it's concerning to me that if Nixa's closing theirs during the day, that if it was okay, they wouldn't close it. So maybe you need to.
I use the walking trail in Republic that's on 174. I think it's Price Elementary in Republic, across from Dollar General, or the Casey's General Store. And their walking trail goes straight up to the fence, 4-foot fence, playground, and an outdoor classroom. So I think school district to school district, I think because Nixa does it, it's probably something that was safe for them. The walking trail that's being proposed here is being built in that location because of the grant that was applied for, that has the route that we have to use.
Well, and you can look at Republic though, that also there's lots of traffic and lots of eyes, and it's right there on 174, where our facility is hidden in the back, behind everything. I mean, that to me is.
I think it can be good and bad. I mean, you look at schools like Billings where they have a sidewalk and a road beside their elementary school playground. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities there. Marionville has the same situation, roads on both sides. And I think also we have to look at what the trail's for and who's gonna use the trail. Probably the biggest usage of our trails comes from our seniors that use the trail. You know, our senior taxpayers, they get out and walk before noon. And that's exactly the time we're talking about closing. It's before noon, especially when weather is a little warmer. So you're gonna basically tell a large constituency that, sorry, but you can't use that.
No,
I think the
not.
more people that we have, I mean, because you're talking about closing it during the school day.
No.
Can I say something real quick before we get, so to respond to some of the things that Chantel said. I'm the one who, listening to the feedback of everybody, came up with the proposal, and I submitted it. I don't think the council had a meeting, perhaps they did, I don't know. But the reason that it was described to me was that the grant specifications would not allow it to be closed. That was the explanation that was given to me. When I talked to other school districts, Reed Spring is the one which I'm from, not that I care for those people too much, but they indicated it was a different type
We
of
are on
funding.
camera.
I'll tell them. It was a different type of funding stream, Chantel, in terms of why, and I don't know about Nixa specifics, you are correct, Nixa does shut down part of their trails. I mean, I think under this opportunity, from my perspective, I don't think it's going to allow the grant specifics are not going to allow for the trail to be shut down under those circumstances. So, to my understanding, that's why the city didn't proceed with it. And I know the mayor isn't here, and I don't wanna speak on his behalf, but that was what was explained to me. I think, looking at, from this perspective, and the board can either continue to discuss it or determine, I think the options are a fence. I think what you need to think about as a board member, the fence on the north side, that's solid, and then a visual barrier fence on the east side. I think under the circumstances, to make the trail progress with Chief Coatney's words with respect to safety, I think that's the decision on the table right now. I don't know that there are going to be any other options for alternative situations. So I think that's the decision on the table right now from that perspective. It is a difficult situation, but it is what it is. I think the opportunity is upon us, or upon you all as a board. Mrs. Pettit, do you care if Mrs. Pettit speaks, Mr. McCulley?
I brought those packets today for the school board for each of you to use, but I failed to put this one in, and I'm sorry, but it's another sample of a solid fence, and it's like zero maintenance. And I know a place in town that has this. You cannot see through it, you can't climb over it. It's 6 foot tall, and that might be a good option for the north side that you're speaking of. Thank you.
I really like the 7.5 foot with the barbed wire as far as accessibility.
Based on this, is it also true that they would take 1.21 of our acres?
Mr. Grossenbacher asked that a moment ago. That's not to my understanding. I don't understand those numbers there. My understanding is it was a smaller piece of property with respect to the easement. So I don't understand those, because I saw the same thing. I don't understand.
So is our property, where is our property line?
I do not know that off the top of my
So
head.
from the district, that's the other thing, I don't wanna give away district land without more in exchange and things like that. I don't think that's our response. Our place.
I'm not ready to vote on it tonight.
I mean, do you know, Mark?
As I understand, it's an easement that we're talking about.
That's my understanding, is that it is an easement, and
That's all we're voting on is an
yeah,
easement.
and that's where it's marked that the city's gonna maintain that part.
Right, so the question, I trust and believe you, but the way it is worded, the city to acquire 1.2 acres of property.
Board, with this, how it's related to the Uniform Relocation Act, which is federal law that we have to follow whenever we get into, and it's called acquiring land, whether it's an easement or whether it is actual purchase. It is still referred to in federal law as acquiring it, because that is, we're just acquiring, in this case, which would be use for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think it's important to kind of understand that is very limited on what that can be used for. You also have in your packets showing where that it is floodway and floodplain. Anything in there would have to go through to comply with federal law is that you would have to work with the city's floodplain administrator, which is Carrie, on anything that you wanted to do in there, which is very limited use also.
We're talking about an easement, which will allow them to have the usage of that. They're acquiring the usage of it, not actually acquiring the deed of that land. We're not gonna be deeding any property. It's gonna be an easement that we're going to be voting on. And the part of the property that they're acquiring the easement on, they are going to have to do the maintenance and the mowing and all that part of it.
So, John, or maybe Mark, I don't know, one of you guys maybe will answer this, since we would technically retain ownership of the property. So if somebody falls down out there and breaks their leg, would that be on us or the city, or how would that work?
That's on us. We would cover that as far as our risk pool. Insurance is that would all be on us.
Okay.
Is that we're required under the requirements to basically make sure that we're taking care of that. That would include snow removal, maintenance on all of that, cracks.
So we're absolved from all liabilities.
That all falls on us,
Okay.
and that's for the entire length of, through any properties, if it was going through anything. It would all fall on us.
Are you lighting this up? I mean, are you putting lights down through here?
That would be something that we would look at, however, studies have talked about that adding lights to walking trails promotes people using it at night. And so, and they kind of dissuade from that.
Is there some out at White Park?
Yeah, there are.
I couldn't remember, I mean, I didn't know.
To Shan, if I could, I'd be happy to respond to her questions about why we approached MoDOT as soon as we got the proposal of closing the gate. We absolutely went to MoDOT and say, this is what is being proposed. Is that something that they would do? And it's my understanding that you guys are, because they asked, well, how long is that? And I took a swag, kind of guess, and you guys have about 44 weeks. Is that about the school year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give or take.
And so, based on that, I said this would affect that for 44 weeks. And so, MoDOT, I didn't even, I gave them, queried them, and it was several days later that we heard back. They are not making that determination. Anything that has to do with this, since it's federal dollars, goes up to the Federal Highway Administration, and they look at the request or the question and then make a determination. So, and that goes back to the same thing as far as, well, why not, why?
So we don't have an answer, is that what you're saying?
No, the answer was no.
Oh, so we
Is
went
that
up to the federal,
the actual quote that we got back from MoDOT was the use of federal funds to build the trail does make it a public, which means the access cannot be limited, so closing it during the school day does not follow the federal guidelines. That's the actual quote that we got back from MoDOT on this. As far as routing it, we also had questioned that, can we route it? And they said the route that was presented, that was proposed, is that it would be too much of a significant change. They based their award for the grant based on the route that was presented, and for us to change that, basically would negate what they based the approval of the award.
right, so when we asked the question about shutting it off, did you say there potentially could be an alternative route for people to use during that time when it's shut down? When you posed the question, did you ask them
And
that?
what's the alternative route?
The sidewalk in the front of the school.
Yeah, the sidewalk, 10-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
I'm saying, like, did you ask them that question? When you asked,
I did not.
we're not gonna shut it down, but we're gonna give them an alternative route?
I did not.
So I think the issue is that our alternative route is not the trail in question, so.
But we don't, they just are looking that we don't wanna shut it down. Like, we're giving them an alternative route potentially. So like, that's a different question than just saying we wanna shut it down, you have no alternative.
So I think from their perspective, the trail that they are funding is still being shut down.
I think we need to get back to the,
I'm just questioning, I didn't get to ask the question, so it's our job to ask all the questions.
Understood.
This is not my job, I didn't even get paid for this, so we're just asking the questions for our constituents and our kids.
Sure.
Well, I think the reason we have the questions now is because this was sort of thrown on us about 3 weeks ago at a meeting. And then we didn't see these packets until we walked in at 6:30. So we're trying to get up to speed as quickly as possible to make a decision on an easement that's a permanent easement. So we don't want to be difficult, we don't want to be hard to deal with, but we're processing the information in a very short period of time.
Well, and I'll take some blame. So those packets, I mean, Teresa, Mrs. Pettit and the city provided those earlier today. If you look on your agenda, your individual agendas, you'll notice that it says, informational, the board needs to act at some point. So it wasn't designed as necessarily an action item. It is something, as I indicated in my first words on this topic, it is something that needs to be resolved, but I don't, in terms of the whole speed for tonight, it's just something that's on the agenda, but it does need to be resolved at some point in the near future, whether the board decides this evening on what to do, or waits until a special meeting to determine.
Is there a deadline to let bids out on this, or something that you're gonna be approaching, just one of you?
There is that we're quickly, we had to provide them a time frame of when we wanted to get this done. And so we did that approximately, I guess it was just about a year ago, and they approved all of that. And we've been working on the planning and stuff. I mean, there was some initial conversations about this, of what to bring forward, and we kind of hesitated, I'll be honest, is that we hesitated. Because, when we started talking about it, we proposed this and started talking about it in the summer, and then we heard from at least one board member that he had concerns about it. And so we were like, pull back, let's see if we can try to work through those a little bit. That's why we're delaying. The thing is that
I guess the question is there a deadline date? I just need a date.
The dates for we have a timeline of what we're supposed to get things done. We were supposed to get this out into bids by about May, so that we could get the bids and have this done in April. We do have an extension available to us, that if we need to, and to do that. I would say this also, is one thing is that, more than anything, we're requesting for us to act in good faith, asking you to act in good faith, of that, knowing that we're not gonna work out the details right now, but we will be able to work out the details. Is that if we agree to a fence, the exact specifications, what the fence looks like, the height, all of that stuff, we're not gonna be able to figure that out tonight, but know that the city is, whatever we need to do to get this across the finish line, we're willing to do that and meet you into your expectations within the parameters that we have. And that's more than anything that what we're asking for, is that we can work together in good faith. If we get together and try to hammer out the details and we're not able to do that, okay, that's fine. But there's no reason to do that if the idea of an easement is not even approachable through votes or whatever.
Well, I do believe it's approachable, and we do want to be a good partner to the city. I would like, though, and I know that you said that the answer to Mrs. Miller's question about was that option given to them of an alternative route. I don't want to spend $100,000 on a sidewalk, believe me, right now. That's not what we really want to do in front of our building. But it would be nice if we knew the answer to that question. So if you could find the answer to that question, if that alternative would be acceptable just for that period of time during the school day, if we had that alternative to close it and reroute them around the front of the building to the more serviceable, area where it'd be washed, would you mind doing that for us?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, if you would do that, we will absorb all this. It's our intention to try to make this happen, to make this work, because I think walking trails are wonderful. I use them all the time for cardiac rehab. I've walked most of the trails in Springfield and the surrounding area, because I like to go to the same place all the time. And I think it's a real community service to have these. But if you could get us the answer to that question, and we'll absorb all the fencing questions and things like that, and sit down and make a final decision.
What's the match on this?
20%.
And what's your budget for the project?
It's around 80,000.
No.
Oh, for our part, it's around 80,000.
No, what's the grand total of the budget?
About 750,000.
And is that, do you have contingent money on that, or how much are you
We have some money
over
in
budget
reserve.
with cost of everything going up? I mean, when did you base these numbers on, what year?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Cause I guess my concern is when we talk about a fence and some of these pictures of these fences, I mean, it could
Those aren't
put the,
cheap.
out of budget, and then again, I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't have something in writing, not that you're in good faith, but then it comes down to where is the money gonna drop and what comes away.
We had an experience with MoDOT, because some of you may know that we built hangars. And so the original engineering specifications came back for that about $600,000. When the bids came in, they came in at over $950,000. MoDOT understood all of that and stuff, and worked with us to be able to accommodate that, so that we could get that project finished up. And we're able to move some dollars around and some allocations, federal dollars, to get that done. So from this standpoint, anything that we would potentially put out for fencing, because we were talking about, we could use city staff to assist with that. We could, and that all comes back to us as in kind. So it may not be dollars that we have to actually put out from the standpoint of actual dollars out of account. Maybe we may be able to put this as part of our match, if there's a fence, and use dollars from staff or volunteer hours for people to put in. If they wanted to assist with building, we could count all of that as in-kind dollars and stuff.
And then the next, other question, if you could find out when you're looking for the answers on things, could you find out, like, this picture here that Teresa had? I don't know, I know when we had the meeting and Dr. Yokum and I were at the city, and talked about the floodplain and all that. So I guess I need also know, this kind of fencing, is it gonna become a factor of what it collects and gathers and could possibly tear up? Is there gonna have to be a, go ahead.
Can I speak to that?
Oh, yeah, you're already on it.
As floodplain administrator, I kind of have the answers to that. So basically, as we listed on that sheet of the proposed fencing, it says on there that we would need to elevate it 6 to 12 inches off of the ground.
So then this picture would not, it'd have to be brought up.
Right,
6
so
to
then
12.
what we would be able to do is we could utilize something like, excuse my farm girl reference, hog panels, or they make like a mesh wire type thing that could be connected to the bottom of that fence and then also goes underground so it would be secured. The floodplain regulations will allow something like that so long as the openings in that paneling are not less than 1 inch square. So I think we could still accommodate some security at the bottom of that fence while allowing the fence to be floodproof for that to pass through.
We're way past, but do you have something short?
I'm short, I promise it's short, and I gotta come up closer, I'm sorry. But, I just wanted to give you just briefly a history that, the town was surveyed. I think we all agree that the purpose of what the sidewalks, what the walking trails do, we all agree on that. The thing that you guys may not realize, and I honestly forgot, was, phase 1 is just around White Park. Nobody else's land but White Park. Phase 2 is from White Park to Page. And one thing I forgot until I started looking at all of this is we have an easement from the Aurora School District for the last part of that. And the initial route of that we were gonna do, we had to make a modification, so we had to go back to MoDOT for an adjustment of that. And I actually forgot about that. And we were awarded the grant for, I believe, phase 1 in 2013. And I got a letter from Dan Decker, which I have with me, 2011, in the support of trails,
Yes.
parks of
Yeah,
schools.
I referenced that earlier.
Okay, that's great. But you know when we finally got all those easements and all that done? 2015. And the reason why you don't do your easements before you apply for your grant is because paying for lawyers and deeds and assessment, the surveys, all that stuff, we can use that money, that cost, for our 20% match. That's what the grant application, that's what they tell you to do. So here now, we're, in the past, we did that for Trail 2, pay, to White Park. We did that. We had a letter from Dan Decker, the school board support. Here, 4 years later, we finally get the easement. We got the trail going. Well, now fast forward to where we are. We got a letter from Superintendent Ritas in October, let's see, let me make sure, July of 22 in support. And we're having all these community meetings, even at the school, of where this trail is gonna be and all the master plans of all the parks and all this stuff. So this isn't really brand new, shouldn't be brand new information. So that was in July that we get the letter from Dr. Regas, and then we get awarded in October. But the issue is that you cannot work on getting your easement written up until you have your survey, you've gotta have your design team to know how many feet north, how many feet east, whatever, all of that. And we weren't even allowed to do that. We could not even get a design going until like May of last year, of 23. So the hiccup, I will say the hiccup the city has done, I say we are at fault at this, is if we had Dr. Reedus giving that letter to us with him knowing everything, we made the mistake of not getting that easement before he retired. So we were just following what we've done before, and now here we are. So let's see if we can't find something. I'm hoping this last 3 weeks ago wasn't the first time you heard about any of this.
Well, I'll tell you that in March of last year,
Uh-huh,
the engineer was gonna come in here in April or May,
okay,
and he never showed up to explain and give us a drawing.
okay.
I don't know what Dr. Edis did, but I know we waited for the engineer to come and give us a drawing, and it didn't
Okay.
happen. That's all I can tell you from that.
Well, I apologize for that. I
Yeah.
didn't know about that.
Yeah.
If
That's what
sorry
it
about
is if
that.
we see plans, it's
Uh-huh.
just whether we build buildings or anything, we're not gonna make a
Sure,
approval until we have
Right.
something that we can look at and see, and
yeah,
whether it be ours or somebody else's doing that. And I'm
Right.
sure with your rec facility, it's the same way.
Sure.
When you're building, you wanna know what you're
Uh-huh.
gonna build, so.
but I was gonna say, as far as
We need
like,
to get back on pace here, I'm sorry.
I know, but I was just gonna say, we're just trying to follow what we've done before, and we made the mistake of not getting that easement before, and moving forward, whatever you guys decide, I recommend, that we develop a trail committee. We've had one before, that we need to get somebody with the school. Doesn't have to be necessarily a school board member, but somebody active in the school, somebody active with the city, and figure out these routes. And, we do have a master plan of a route, that it can be changed, before we apply for a grant. So let's work together on that.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna move along and leave that on the table.
Good. I don't even know where we're at.
We are up to the news. Overnight trips.
Okay, there are 1, 2, 3 overnight trips. Probably the second one is the one that brings notice, and that trip is planned for March and April of 25. That is an every other year trip that the band takes. I asked Dr. Shively to, when she brought that to me, to bring this to the board well in advance, because, so what you're approving is the potential for the trip to occur. I didn't want them to make plans to do all of the fundraising and all the things if it was totally off the table with you guys. So the trip is, again, not for another year, naturally, but they need to know that it's okay to progress before they do so. So, and then the last one is for wrestling, which is pretty straightforward. So there are 3 overnight trip requests included in that one action, however you guys want to proceed with that.
Any questions concerning any of the trips? Obviously, the participants is for the wrestling one, at the state level and possibly the district level is gonna depend on how many qualify and
Correct,
things like that.
yes.
Now, I looked at the overnight trip request, and I appreciate coming early to
Mhm.
let us know about this so they can get busy, so.
And we don't hear about fundraising efforts, and there's been no trip
Yeah, the trip.
requested for those fundraising efforts, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the overnight trips as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Chantil, seconded by Brian to approve the trip request as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, the next item is a recommendation that the summer school session be May 28th of 2024, which is the day after Memorial Day, through June 27th of 2024, which is 19 school days, which follows the protocol that's been in the past. The same incentives, the same transportation plans. So I just would ask the board to, if willing, to approve this upcoming summer school session so we can begin planning.
Any questions for Dr. Young concerning summer school?
Make a motion, we approve the summer school session.
Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Steve to approve our summer school session from May 28th to June 27th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Insurance, my favorite topic.
Okay, fortunately, we received a flat renewal from the Ozark School Benefits Association, and it's like dog eat dog out there. We're getting contacted all the time by various consortiums, or consortia, whatever the term is. But under the circumstances, when there isn't an increase, I think it's good to stay. When, as I indicated, 10% is usually what people say is understandable in this market for group health insurance. So the recommendation is that we continue with OSBA with the same contribution rate, $564 per member per month, or $67.68 per member per year. The other thing that would be included in this, pending your all's approval, is the same OSBA wellness program. So this would not include the district's wellness program, two separate entities. I want to take some time and review that and bring that to you guys for action in probably March or April. So the recommendation is to accept the renewals for 24-25 with OSBA for health insurance at the same contribution rate with the wellness program and the vision dental, which is a supplemental product.
Rarely do we get this opportunity to approve a no increase health insurance bid for the coming year. Any questions concerning this?
I'll make a motion to approve the insurance renewal with OSBA as presented.
I'll second that. Motion by Chantil, second by Mark to approve the 24-25 insurance renewal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Reports, AEA, anyone here?
We just want to thank Dr. Yocum for his continued collaboration and communication with AEA. We have nothing else to add to our report.
Thank you, appreciate that. Food service,
He's not here.
he brought the food and left, didn't he? Okay, well, we appreciate the food this evening. That's excellent. Building principals, Chuck's not here. Mr. Dake.
Yeah, just a couple little things. Walmart made some donations that were able to help with the hot chocolate donut fundraiser deal that we do through the school for Bright Futures. So appreciated them. Wanted to give a shout out. They're very generous to our school a lot. And then Mr. Brown was able to acquire another grant through the Ozarks Community Foundation. So we're getting more pieces in place for the outdoor classroom in the courtyard. So he's really been working hard on those grants and doing a good job getting them in there and getting awarded. So looking forward to making that happen. So
Thank you for your work.
that's what I got.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Dr. Spooner.
Just gonna highlight our junior high honor band went, a couple weeks ago. They took 11 students and 10 made the junior high honor band. So that was 5-7, 5-8. So good mix.
Congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations to them. Dr. Scheiben?
I'm going to deviate a little bit from what I told Dr. Yocum I was going to talk about. I got some results from our FFA. We have an event coming up in FFA, our fish fry, and chicken and live music, and I think there's a silent auction. But I got results today from Mr. Percival of some of our kiddos that took SAE projects. And out of the 32, 12 of them got first place and are gonna move on to state. So I thought that was amazing. And the majority got seconds and thirds. So anybody, and there's 25 that got first, second, or third. So they will be recognized at the area banquet. So kudos to what's going on in our ag department. So.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman, activities.
Since Dr. Shavli stole most of my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you had that.
I will add, Karina Lopez was selected as the Area 11 Star Agribusiness Representative. And then in addition to my report, our girls finished second. They were playing for the championship, finished second Saturday in the Warrior Classic, and are currently up by, I think, 25 on Mount Vernon.
Woo. So we'll have a great year. Dr. Layton.
I will add, I have spent a lot of time down at the old school with Mr. Butler out. I've been down there a lot with the kids. They're completing classes, things are going as well as can be expected. They have some cool things they started this year down there with flexible electives and things where the kids are taking electives every 6 weeks and they can get elective credit for that. Right now they're doing, I think it's world culture foods and movies through books. And there's some pretty cool activities going on with different things that they're doing. Working with Mr. Butler on making sure kids are ready for graduation and where they're at. Trying to help with that as well.
Certainly appreciate you
Spent a lot of time.
stepping up and lending a helping hand where needed. That's very, very good to see that, and we appreciate it with you as well, Dave. Do you have any thing that you want to talk about in the special ed department?
Referrals have slowed down some. I know they're gonna pick back up here soon for third quarter conferences and things. Transfers, earlier today, I said they had slowed down some, but we had 2 or 3 come in today, along with a referral that I got from a parent. So, this is a busy time of year for us as we're planning for next year, trying to start on summer school. And unfortunately, I'm still completing state reports from last year. So, they were late getting them out to us this year. So that's been time consuming for Kate and me and Mindy and Lacey.
Keeping everybody busy, but you're just keeping everybody
There
busy.
you go. It's my goal.
Dr. Mason?
No doctor.
No doctor. I was trying to promote you.
Appreciate that.
Futuristic.
Yeah, so, a couple things as far as, I'm gonna piggyback on what Brenda said with the transportation department. George, Tiffany, Amy Black have done a tremendous job, keeping things rolling, so to speak. Buses have not missed any kids. I mean, we've had some hiccups with some sub-drivers, that kind of thing, but they've all worked through those issues. Things are going pretty smoothly in the transportation department, and those 3 folks have had a major hand in that. And I'll just say, Amy Black does a lot of our scheduling for our sub routes or trips and those kind of things. I never like getting text messages at 5 a.m. from Amy because that means I'm probably shuttling a kid, but it happens from time to time, and I wouldn't have wanted her job, so kudos to them for that. And then I will say our transition to Infinite Campus from Tyler SIS is still continuing. As we are learning more, I met with Dr. Shively and the team of counselors and secretaries and Mr. Gusher today with Jade, talking about some responsibilities as far as where we've got coming up with building next year's schedule. And we're already working towards what the 24-25 school year will look like in that Infinite Campus, because if you remember, we built all of our schedules last year in Tyler, and it rolled over. So we're still working through those processes of what that's gonna look like. So, still ask for patience and grace when we're working through those things. But, I think once we get familiarized with the system and we know how to use that operating system to its fullest extent, it will be a good thing, because they were even talking today about the board. There's a board in Infinite Campus that you can see that has kids that haven't been scheduled yet, that has areas where you can plug classes in and makes the most fit to get the most kids. It's almost like an AI type scheduling piece, so I think that will be beneficial once we fully know how to operate that system. But that's been a work in progress, but I appreciate the folks who are working behind the scenes on that.
Thank you very much, appreciate your work. Dr. Yoakum?
Only two things I want to mention. Tomorrow, we're holding the first district leadership team meeting, which will incorporate approximately 25 staff members. We'll meet here. We were supposed to do it a week or so ago, but weather hindered it. And it's really the first step in trying to further a cohesive, collaborative approach to district functionality. It's got reps from all 4 buildings, so I'm excited about that. And the last thing is I'm in the process of preparing a survey of sorts to inquire about the possibility of a staff daycare, at least getting something rolling from that perspective. So that's all I'll say. I got a lot more I could say, but we're running late on time. So,
Board members have anything you want to add? I do appreciate the board, the fact that we're able to go through these, some of these difficult things and just kind of keep plugging away. Thanks for your service. If there's nothing else, then,
Make a motion to go into closed session.
motion to go into closed session, for RSMO 610.021. 2, items 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to go into closed session. Brian?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. 6-0. All right, appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. Everybody can go. David? Randy?
you guys got to go.
You get 4 years. 4 years. Now 5, they probably.
Yeah, you too.
Still living, I guess.
See you later.
Bye-bye.